Good evening. My name is Alexandria Roney. I live at 4217 White House Street in the Greenpoint development, the same neighborhood that will sit directly behind this Pumpkin Center data center. Earlier this year, my family bought our home believing the vision that we were sold, a large, family-friendly community in the hub of Harlem, with outdoor activities and nearby shopping. We paid more than comparable homes because we believed in this promise. We were excited and we were hopeful. We bought a house that had more rooms than we needed because we planned on growing our tiny family. Today, that promise has been broken. What we invested our savings and our children's future in is being taken away. That matters because this decision fundamentally changes the health environment our children will grow up in. Today, our family's health is under threat, and so is the health of every family in the area. There are 0 long-term studies studying if living near large-scale data centers is safe for residential neighborhoods long-term. This is not because they are proven safe, but because placing facilities on this scale, this close to homes and schools, is so new. The absence of evidence is not reassurance, it is a warning. And we already know enough to be alarmed. The health effects of air pollution and chronic noise are amongst the most settled issues in public health. The American Lung Association, the American Heart Association, the World Health Organization, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency all agree on this critical point. Fine particulate matter, PM 2.5, has no safe level of exposure. The American Heart Association states that long-term exposure increases cardiovascular disease and premature death, even below current regulatory limits. The World Health Organization tightened its air quality guidelines because harm occurs at even very low concentrations, and children are at the highest risk. The American Academy of Pediatrics warns that childhood exposure due to this air pollution increases asthma, permanently impairs lung development, and is linked to neurodevelopmental harm affecting learning, attention, and behavior. These effects are not temporary, they follow children for life, and we are putting it next to a school. The science is overwhelming. A peer-reviewed health model study published in 2024 estimates that pollution associated with U.S. data center operations could contribute to nearly 1,300 premature deaths every year by 2030, with public health costs exceeding $20 billion annually, with the greatest burden falling on communities closest to the source, communities like mine. And our region is already vulnerable. According to the American Lung Association, the Augusta area ranks amongst the worst in the nation for fine particulate pollution. Adding multiple data centers next to homes and a school does not just add risk, it compounds it, with this Pumpkin Center one being the most egregious. Now let's talk about noise. Not about annoyance, but about health. I appreciate the county's efforts to regulate the decibels, I really do. But decibels do not address low-frequency noise, the kind that is produced by industrial cooling systems. Low-frequency noise travels farther, penetrates walls, and triggers physiological stress responses even when people cannot consciously hear it. The WHO and NIH has concluded that chronic environmental noise increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, sleep disturbance, and mental health disorders, as well as impairing immune function and leading to cognitive impairment, especially in children. Again, we are putting this next to a school and a densely populated neighborhood filled with children and families like mine. When you place constant industrial noise next to a neighborhood and a school, you are not just changing the soundscape, you are altering the biological environment in which our children will grow. Greenpoint is home to many veterans, including my husband. He suffered a traumatic brain injury during his service, resulting in severe migraines that ended his military career. Chronic noise exposure is a known trigger for these post-TBI symptoms. For families like mine, this is not an inconvenience. It is a real medical risk that threatens our stability and our health. Public health is guided by a precautionary principle. When there is a credible risk of serious harm, especially to children, lack of full scientific certainty is not a justification to proceed. That principle exists because history taught us painful lessons. Lead, asbestos, tobacco, PFAS. In every case, communities were told to wait for proof while children were exposed and harmed. We should not repeat that mistake. Let us be honest about what is actually being asked of us. Families are being asked to trade their health and their children's health for revenue, for the possibility of parks, lower taxes, or road improvements, as Allison Couch said earlier this week. But parks mean nothing if it isn't safe to breathe in them. Lower taxes mean nothing if our children can't sleep or can't think or focus while they're in their homes or in their schools. Better roads mean nothing if they lead to a hospital or endless doctor's appointments due to chronic illness. I did not buy my home at the expense of my child's health. No responsible parent would. And I sincerely hope that this council will not do so either. When you vote tonight, remember this. You are not voting on a zoning change. You are deciding whether children's health is negotiable and whether families are acceptable collateral for progress. You have a choice tonight. Our children will be the ones to live with it. Please say no to the Status Center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lauren Cato, and I live in Greenpoint subdivision. On December 2nd, Columbia County unanimously approved Ordinance 25-07, establishing standards for data centers, including a 70 decibel noise limit at the property line. 3 days later, Prather submitted an application to rezone Pumpkin Center from the existing approved PUD to a data center use. First, I'm going to talk about misrepresentation and reliance on the approved PUD. Residents purchased homes in Greenpoint in reliance on the approved Master Plan PUD 2020. In Mr. Prather's own rezoning materials, the approved PUD for the area in question included 240 single-family homes, 50 townhomes, a gas station, and 30,000 square foot of retail. This plan was marketed by the developer, the real estate agents, and approved by the county. Families purchased homes trusting that the approved PUD would be honored. The data center is materially different in character, intensity, and impact from the approved mixed-use residential and retail development. Rezoning Pumpkin Center undermines that reliance, threatens property values, and raises legitimate fears of financial hardships if residents are forced to relocate due to health and safety concerns. Noise. Ordinance 25-07 prevents data centers from exceeding 70 decibels at the exterior property line and requires compliance with Columbia County Nuisance Standards Code 34-32. Mr. Prather's own noise study states that current ambient noise are already 65 to 75 without a data center present. How can you approve this when the site already exceeds or approaches the maximum allowable noise before a single server cooling system or generator is operating? County Code 34-32 defines a nuisance as any excessive, unnecessary, unnatural, or unusually loud noise which is prolonged and detrimental to public health, comfort, safety, and welfare. The ordinance specifically prohibits excessive noise adjacent to schools, adjacent to places of worship, and adjacent to institutions of learning. The extreme proximity to homes and schools is very concerning. According to Mr. Prather's own rezoning application, homes are located approximately 150 feet from the proposed property line. Behind those homes is another row of homes, and then another row. Those homes are in Greenpoint, which house hundreds of families and children. Harlem Middle School is approximately a third of a mile away. That's less than 2 laps around the football field. And on a street adjacent to the site, your ordinance prohibits noise being made adjacent to a school. Abilene Baptist Church operates out of the middle school on Wednesdays and Sundays. Your ordinance prohibits noise from being made adjacent to a place of worship. Mr. Prather's PUD vision states Greenpoint was intended to be a place where people can live, work, and play, and that it would support Harlem Middle School as a key community asset. A nearby industrial data center does not support that vision. Why this matters, and I'm speaking for the children now. The American Academy of Pediatrics says children must rely on adults to protect them from hazardous noise. Prolonged noise exposure can cause irreversible hearing loss, ringing in the ear, and sound sensitivity. Even small degrees of hearing loss can negatively affect speech acquisition, language comprehension, communication ability, classroom learning, and social development. So you say, we're going to make sure we keep it below the allowable rate of 70 decibels. 70 decibels is not the same for a child as it is for an adult, and here are the scientific and medical reasons. The American Academy of Pediatrics says, research demonstrates that the auditory systems of infants and children who are still developing rapidly are different from the mature auditory systems. Compared with adults, Children have unique susceptibilities to the effects of noise. Remember, there's hundreds of homes across the street and a school less than 2 laps away. The American Academy of Pediatrics goes on to say that children's hearing structures and neural pathways are not fully mature, which can make them more vulnerable to damage from prolonged noise exposure. The Educational Audiology Association: children perceive sound more intensely than adults at the same volume, so greater care must be taken to limit children's exposure to noise. The World Health Organization: environmental noise is linked to impaired cognitive development, including memory and reading comprehension. The American Speech Language Hearing Association: background noise interferes with speech perception and language development. Again, lastly, World Health Organization: chronic noise increases stress hormones, sleep disruption, and behavioral problems. Sleep disturbance from environmental noise is especially harmful to children. These harms are driven not just by volume, but by constant low-frequency noise, which travels farther, penetrates walls, and has the greatest impact long-term repetitive exposure. This would be a daily, lifelong exposure for the residents of Greenpoint. Air quality and the PM 2.5 risk. The American Lung Association's State of the Air report ranks Augusta as the worst PM 2.5 air quality in the Southeast. Not one of the worst, but the actual worst. And the county just approved another quarry. PM 2.5 particles penetrate the lungs and the bloodstream. The highest groups at risk are infants and children, pregnant women, and people with asthma, COPD, and other lung diseases. Data centers test diesel generators regularly, often weekly, to ensure uninterrupted operation. Each time these generators are tested or turned on for any reason, they emit PM 2.5. This will further degrade the air quality in an area that is already the worst in the region. None of us should have to worry that if we let our kids outside to play at home or school, that they are being exposed to excessive prolonged noise.
Ma'am, that's your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darren Bunyard. I live at 2432 Telfair Lane, here representing Hatcher Glen subdivision. So thank you for the opportunity.
Which subdivision?
To speak. Hatcher Glen.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to begin stating something clearly. This conversation is not about being anti-technology or anti-progress. It's about whether progress comes at the expense of public health. And are we willing to accept long-term irreversible harm to our community in exchange for short-term development gains? The research is increasingly clear. Large-scale data centers carry chronic and cumulative health risks for nearby neighborhoods. These risks are not hypothetical, they're measurable, documented, and already occurring in communities across the country. Air pollution risk. The primary source of air pollution for data centers comes from two phases: on-site diesel backup generators and overhead electronic releasing gaseous contaminations into the air. Diesel generators are routinely tested, exercised, not just during outages. These generators emit fine particulate matter known as PM 2.5 and nitrogen oxide, or NOx, both of which are well-established threats to human health. PM 2.5 particles are small enough to penetrate into the lungs and enter into the bloodstream. Long-term exposure can be conclusively linked to asthma, chronic lung disease, heart attacks, lung cancer, stroke, and premature death. Importantly, public health authorities agree there are no safe levels. Pollutants don't leave the body, they're there. There is no recovering from this exposure. Nitrogen oxide further compounds the problem. NOx causes irritation to the eyes, throat, nose, increased respiratory infection, worsening asthma, contributing to ground level ozone. Communities located near data centers have documented measurable spikes in NOx levels from operation, not years later, but immediately. The health burden is already quantified. The pollution is not just harmful, it's exposure to the human. Recent analysis estimates that public health damage from U.S. data centers populations has reached approximately $6 billion in 2023, driven by increased hospital visits, medical use, lost productivity, and premature deaths. If current trends continue, these costs are projected to reach up to $20 billion by 2030. Those are not absurd numbers. They represent children struggling to breathe, seniors suffering from chronic events, and families bearing the long-term costs. Quality of life and noise impacts. Beyond air pollution, residents near data centers consistently report severe decline in quality of life due to consistent low-frequency noises, the unceasing hum of cooling systems, fans, and generators. People report migraines, sleep disruptions, the inability to use their yards, porches, or outdoor spaces. This is a nuisance. It's a health risk. Long-term exposure to low-frequency noise has been linked to sleep disorders, headaches, hearing loss, elevated stress hormones, hypertension, anxiety, and an increase in cardiovascular risk. Chronic sleep disruption alone is associated with higher rates of heart disease, depression, and metabolic disorder. So one that hasn't been spoken of now is the heat and microclimate effects from the data centers. Data centers also release massive amounts of wasted heat into the surrounding neighborhoods. This heat exhaust alters local microclimates, leading to increased neighborhood temperatures, higher heat stress during heat wave events, increased cooling costs for nearby residents. During extreme heat events, these effects are not trivial. They're compounded existing risks, particularly for the vulnerable population. And all of this has been identified as digital smog. Long-term health impacts. When you look at the research as a whole, long-term exposure to pollution and stressors associated with data centers result in increased asthma, COPD, higher cardiovascular disease, elevated risk of stroke and heart attack, premature mortality, especially for the PM2.5. There's also cognitive learning impacts to children exposed to chronic air pollution. So the most vulnerable are the children, elderly residents, people with asthma, heart disease, and compromised immune systems. For the residents at risk, these aren't theoretical, they're personal. What the research says overall, the most important conclusive from the research, these risks are chronic and cumulative. They're not acute. They don't show us.
Is your time?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Deanna Coleman. I live at 6821 Pecan Road, Appling, Georgia. And I really wasn't going to speak tonight, but I have to because I'm not hearing a lot of, I know it's children. I have a 38-year-old daughter with autism, Asperger's to be exact, but if these are all fluorescent lights, she'd be going crazy right now because she could hear every single little buzz in them. And to think, I know we will live 8 miles away, but I'm sure she'll still hear it. She is, like I said, she's disabled. She is high intelligence. She has higher IQ than mine, but she can hear things like you cannot believe. She hears my little dog whining when it wants to get in my lap, and I can't hear it at all. But I do have a hearing aid, which probably will affect me also. Also, I have CPOD, or COPD, or whatever it is, COPD. And in the years with all the construction coming out our way, which my late mother thought I lived in the boonies, well, not anymore. With all the construction of houses and everything coming out our way and all the dust from the trees going and all this, I'm having trouble breathing right now. But anyway, my point is with her and autism, there is an increase of rate of autism in children lately, and I have no idea what it's to or whatever, but if their autism is like my daughter's, they're in trouble because they will just go completely bonkers. And as I was waiting in line I got a thing from my watch that says I was in a loud environment today. Well, yeah, just a little bit ago with all the clapping. And it said at 10 minutes at this level is dangerous to my ears. And then at another level, it was 30 minutes at this level is dangerous to my hearing. And I know that I live that far away, so I can't imagine what these people that live in that area are going to go through. But I'm sure my daughter will hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jake Pollard. I live on Pollard's Pond Road in Appling. And I share the concerns of all my neighbors been expressed tonight. But I'd like to pose a question that may not have been considered, and that is, what is the backup plan when the AI bubble bursts? I'm retired now, but my last job was for a technology firm in Atlanta that provided cloud computing and data storage in data centers all across the Southeast. This huge push for more data centers is a result of AI. But Google and Elon Musk's SpaceX are already proposing to launch satellites to store the data for Google's AI engine in 2027. That's only 1 year from now. So any of these terrestrial structures that are being proposed are going to be obsolete by the time they're completed. Because in space, when they're in orbit, they don't have to tap into the electrical grid because they've got solar panels to provide free electricity 24/7. And they don't have to tap into the groundwater because it's already cold in space to keep the surface cold. This technology is happening, and it's coming fast. So my question is, what happens to all these giant concrete structures being proposed when they're no longer needed to house data? Probably not something we're going to want in our community. So I implore this committee and the county commissioners to look a little further down the road and not bank on a technology that's going to soon be outdated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Katie Allen from Swint Road, Pumpkin Center community. How many have heard of the Radium Girls or the Shining Girls? Okay. I hadn't until my oldest daughter began reading this book. They were young women who painted dials for the military equipment during World War I using radium-based paint. As part of this job, they were trained to shape the paintbrush to a point in their mouth, leading them to consume the radium paint daily. They were told that it was safe. They were paid well and praised for their work. All was well until the women began to fall ill. They developed tumors, growths, open cancers. The radium would mimic calcium, honeycombing their bones until they would literally fall apart. Many women reported seeing their bones glow through their pale skin as they became sicker and sicker. Doctors and the employer refused to diagnose the radium as poison, as doing so would bring liability to the company and make it difficult to find new girls for the jobs. The girls could not get answers and struggled to find anyone willing to represent them against this new and profitable industry. This led to a decades-long fight for justice, and even as they finally won their case at the Supreme Court, most received little compensation for their medical bills. While this book was disturbing, perhaps the most disturbing part of all of it was the postscript. It described a scene of girls working in a factory with radium dust, laughing and painting their nails with it, watching it make their hair glow, bringing it home to their families and children. They were told that it was safe so long as they didn't eat it. Yet, of course, the cancers and tumors and amputations came. The year was 1978, and as the author states, how quickly we forget. This pattern of harm is nothing new. Industries develop, products are released, the public is told it's safe, only to later fall ill and learn that it was the industry scientists and doctors who were trusted to determine safety. Anyone watch John Travolta's A Civil Action? It tells the story of how lawyer Jan Schlichtman worked to hold companies accountable for their environmental dumping in Woburn, Massachusetts, where residents began developing cancer due to the chemicals in the water. And of course, many know of the Aaron Brockovich story holding PG&E accountable in Hinckley, California for similar negligence. How quickly we forget. Industries come in for profit, safety is promised, public harm is caused, and holding anyone accountable is so impossible that when it is finally achieved, it becomes worthy of a film. Or worse, buried in the archives of history where no one will ever learn of it. And I won't even begin to address the multi-million-dollar cleanup costs left behind for taxpayers to cover, as the companies have long since disappeared when the truth comes out. So what does this have to do with data centers? While data centers are not necessarily new as a concept, the technology used within them is constantly changing. And while these industries will tell you they are safe, it seems safety is in the eye of the profit holder. I asked you before what is at stake. I've spoken about the loss of rural morals and values, but tonight I speak about the safety of the residents who find themselves near these data centers. Can anyone truly say that they are safe? Effects of chemicals in the environment can take years, if not decades, to show themselves. Is the data center industry any different at its core than the ones described above? They are burgeoning, profitable, and just as hard to pin down for information, much less future liability if things go wrong. They are not benevolent, and they are not here for the residents of District 4. They are here for profits, and if that means promising safety, then that is what they'll promise. I asked before, who gets to decide? Who gets to decide if they want to risk chemicals in their air, water, and environment? I think it should be District 4 residents, particularly the ones near these data centers. No one can guarantee that these data centers are safe, because that would take years and even decades of studying cancer and illness trends in areas where modern data centers are being built. Our facts regarding safety may differ, but mine favors the safety of families and citizens, while the data industry's facts favor their profits. Mine favor local control, the data industries favor itself. So again, who gets to decide? Financially, I repeat, the starting point for negotiations is not giving taxpayers their own tax money back because it's already theirs. If property taxes are too high, then that is a spending problem, and giving spenders more money to spend is not the answer. And lastly, thank you for the work you do as a board. I know it's not easy. I know some of you as friends, and I just ask as a fellow Columbia County resident, as a resident of District 4 citizen, that you hear the citizens tonight and you join us in recommending disapproval for the Pumpkin Center and Bird Center zoning requests. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have a handout for the board. I can hand out just to summarize kind of what I'm talking about. Is that okay? I'm Gregory Guido Jr., and I am from Greenpoint Subdivision. My comments address whether this zoning meets the several criteria required for the Planning Commission review. Please correct me if I'm wrong about anything for the following. For the suitability with adjacent property, Vision 2035 designates this area as a mixed-use activity center meant for walkable, compact, mixed-use development. A 417-acre industrial data center campus with warehouses, a substation, and nearly 3 million square feet of buildings is not compatible with the surrounding residential, agriculture, and commercial properties. In addition, major residential development is already underway in this immediate area. Stanley Martin Homes is currently in phase 3 of 5. And Hawes Creek is being built directly across the street, right across the street from Wrightsboro Road. These projects will bring hundreds of new families and school-age children into the area. Placing a large industrial data center campus across from active residential construction is fundamentally incompatible with the development pattern already in progress that creates long-term conflicts that buffers, berms, or vegetation cannot resolve. For adverse impacts, the applicant has not demonstrated compliance with noise, stormwater, fire access, environmental protection, or traffic requirements. Staff states the concept plan does not provide enough detail to verify compliance. Mitigation can be assured when the plan is incomplete. I also want to be clear that the berms and vegetation do not satisfy Section 2. They are not engineered, not binding, and their effectiveness cannot be evaluated until after construction. Berms and planning only provide visual screening. They do not mitigate noise, traffic, stormwater, environmental impacts, or school transportation safety. Buffers cannot make an incompatible industrial use compatible with surrounding residential and agriculture property. Comprehensive plan conflict. The adopted Vision 2035 plan does not support industrial development here. Staff relies on a future unadopted plan that has no legal standing. Our decisions must be based on the current adopted plan, not a draft. Property can be used as currently zoned. Staff confirms there are no substantiating reasons the property cannot be used as currently zoned for residential, commercial, or professional uses. That alone is grounds to deny the rezoning. Burdens on public facilities. Impacts to water, sewer, stormwater, broadband, traffic, and fire safety are unknown. Staff requires a 5-year water and sewer projection, annual updates, a drought plan, GDOT permits, and wetland delineations, none of which have been provided. The required National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits is also missing. Without this information, we cannot determine whether public facilities can support the project. No new conditions justify rezoning. Power lines do not create a new condition that justifies industrial rezoning. Staff acknowledges that property can be used as currently zoned, and a draft plan cannot be used to justify approval. Public health and safety protected. Noise already exceeds the 70 decibel level limited by the data center district. Floodplain wetlands and state waters are not delineated. Fire access cannot be verified. Stormwater and traffic impacts are not modeled. Public health and safety cannot be protected without this information. School safety and public welfare. Before I close, I want to highlight a major omission. There is no analysis of impacts on a school district, school transportation, or the health and welfare of school children. Pumpkin Center sits directly within established school bus corridors, yet there is no evaluation of how construction traffic, heavy equipment, diesel emissions, or long-term industrial operations would affect school buses or the safety of children traveling through this area. Section 7 requires us to protect public health and safety. School children are the most vulnerable population we serve. The absence of any school-related analysis is a serious procedural failure and clear reason to deny this request. In closing, for these reasons, I cannot support this rezoning. I'm asking the Planning Commission to recommend denial or deferral until the applicant provides complete engineering, environmental delineations, noise compliance, stormwater modeling, GDOT approvals, and a concept plan that aligns with the adopted comprehensive plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Fight, and I am here with my husband, Jerry Fight, who's sitting down. Our address is 867 Country Farm Way. We have lived here in Columbia County for 29 years. We have 2 sons, and I stand here before you as a steward. Every single one of us is a steward, and there are many forms of stewardship. We have stewardship with time, money, our skills, our possessions that we have. In the Bible, it says that God owns everything, and we, humans, are the caretakers for his glory, acting faithfully and accountable. So as a steward, I am standing here to oppose this plan that they are wanting for this artificial intelligent data centers, these huge monstrosities that they are wanting to build. They are water hoarders, require a lot of water, even though it's a closed system. The reason why they want this particular area is because of the easy access to the water ponds, the substations, and the large electrical power that is going across to the Amazon. So it makes it easier, less costly for them, but also it's only showing the aerial view of the buildings. It does not show like a 3D image so you can actually see the entire size of the buildings. And this corner here that they plan to build you've already heard that they want to have 4 data center buildings that are going to be 717,000 square feet, which is basically, I guess, maybe almost 4 stories tall. 2 180,000 square feet warehouses, which is the equivalent of 4 football fields, and they said that they were going to use it for storage of their equipment as they need it. 1 office and a substation. And I don't know if that's going to be like an additional substation or the substation that is already there. But the point being is that it requires a lot of electricity, and in the long run, it will come back to us as far as cost. But the big issue is the deforestation that will occur, despite the fact that they say that there's going to be a 50-foot buffer zone on one side, 125 feet on the other, and 250 feet on another side. Despite how much of a buffer zone that they would like, the pine trees only grow 80 to 100 feet tall. So no matter what, you're going to still have these towering buildings that will be staring at us, taking away the beauty of our environment. And just for having data centers, we will have the additional pollution that will be generated, because he said only once a month check. But the paperwork that was submitted said that they would be doing 2 hours, 5 days a week, on weekdays only, generator checks for the system. So we have that in addition to the cooling system that they use, the water runoff. If it goes off into the pond, the water will be warmer. Those ponds do contain fish and other wildlife. So the question is, what is it going to kill? And then what new will be growing? Will it be a good thing or a bad thing? Probably not good, because of the chemicals that will be in the water. Then we have the issue of light pollution. So it says that they're going to use special kind of lights that will cut down so that the light doesn't go up in the air, and it will be deflected away from the housing, the residential area. But despite that, the light does reflect off of buildings, and we still will have light pollution. We already have light pollution when you look to the east from Fort Eisenhower, from Harlem. We live out in a spot in which it's an open pasture. And I raised my children up in which we could actually lay down on the ground and look up at the stars, use a telescope, you can see the planets and everything. Well, now you can't even really look to the east because of the light pollution. You have to really look more south or going west. I'm not going to mention about the noise study. It's already been mentioned several times. And it's not a good thing. And I told you about that. So, in the end, basically, what are we going to gain from this? We will gain nothing. We will have loss of deforestation.
That's your time.
Time? Okay, just end it on one thing, which is, so as you vote tonight, let it be as good stewards, not as commissioners, and as you ask yourself, is this something that would please God? Use your good conscience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Travis McComb. I live at 3027 Bannock Lane.
I'm sorry.
That was short.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Bannock Lane in Greenpoint.
That was 5 seconds.
That was real quick.
Okay, you continue.
All right. Heard a lot of concerns about environmental stuff. I'm not going to talk about any of that because I think we've talked about that a lot tonight. The big thing that I want to talk about, I got a couple points here. The only benefit that we've been told was the possibility of losing or increasing homestead exemptions, which would lower our property taxes. On, I believe it was Monday, we talked with, it was District 4 Commissioner Allison Couch and the County Manager Scott Johnson. The question was asked to Scott Johnson about, what about the school part of the tax? And his response was, hopefully they would follow suit. Of the mills that are included on property taxes, the school is currently 71% of that mill. So it's not going to, if they do not follow suit, which they do not have to, they're hoping that they do, it will not decrease the taxes as much as what everybody thinks that it will. So is it a benefit? Sure, they'll go down, maybe, but probably not as much as what everybody thinks. Just this morning, second point, just this morning, I read an article that was in the Augusta Press, coming out of something from Atlanta, I'm assuming. The state legislators are currently looking at a bipartisan bill to pause data center construction in the state of Georgia. So, I don't know if that will sway anybody's vote on anything, or if that will, make any of this a moot point in the first place. Now, it's a pause, could just be for a little while. And the last point is that when we moved into Bannock, we've been there just over 3 years, just like a lot of the other people in Greenpoint have said, we were sold on a community. I specifically looked at that plan before we purchased that house because that aligned with the ideas of where we wanted to be. And I believe it was about a year ago when we had a community meeting with Mr. Prather and the Stanley Martin, I think it was at the time. And I think the exact words that came out of his mouth were, this was his legacy project. That was a blatant lie now. This is not a legacy project for him. This is only a way for him to make more money off of the land that he does not currently have, or has sold. And the last thing, I have a question about the map here. This map that you have up right now does not show the home on there, but the sound one that you had, the sound study, shows the home as being cut out of that. So is that going to be part of that sale? Because right now, that map, the other one, shows that there's buildings where that home is going to be at, but that one does not. But that's my last thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alexander Dixon. I live at 6160 Old Union Road, Harlem, Georgia. So one of the biggest problems that I have with data center, well, with any industrial, is that virgin territory, once it's used, cannot be reclaimed. So solar farms, industrial complexes, they're used, they're torn down. We see wastelands where they cannot be used. They cannot be used for farms, and the amount of farmable land is decreasing. The population is growing, while the supply of land to grow the food on is decreasing. So once we build data centers, once you put up a solar farm, once you put up any major industrial complex, you can't get it back. You can't build more land. You can't print more land. So what I think would be a good solution nationwide is to create regulation to force data center construction on existing industrial complexes. So reuse solar farms that still have planted solar posts in them that have been polluted, and you can't get that back. Force them to reuse that. They say they want to carry the burden. Companies want to carry the burden. Carry the burden. Fix another company's problem that they are bound to cause to the soil once they, it could be 50 years from now, it could be 20 years from now. My opinion, I worked in an intelligence processing center. And for national security reasons, I think that data centers will be a necessity. There's going to be a eventual Cold War on data processing. China, Russia, you name it. The question is, where are you going to put it? That's a good question. You can put it in space. You can put it in maybe the vast region of Alaska or Texas, where there aren't any homes to be concerned about. Also, national security. The federal government could also protect and cooperate with corporations. This is a whole rabbit trail, but this is not the place for data centers. I know you've already heard it again and again and again, but thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Beverly Hill, 2401 Telfair Lane in the Hatcher Glen subdivision. I'm going to be brief. I'm going to ask the commissioners, when you leave this meeting tonight and you go home, please ask yourselves, would you want these data centers built in your neighborhoods? Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Jonathan Klink. I live at 1866 Lonergan Hulme Road, literally right across the street from the face of the bird facility that's being planned. I don't know what happened. Are we talking about that even tonight?
That'll be next.
It'll be next.
Okay.
This is just White Oak.
So for this instance, then my concern, obviously, I don't want anything developed out there. We bought property out there to be away from everything, and now we're looking at possibly getting this. One of my major concerns, and always has been with Columbia County, it's Columbia County infrastructure. I drove from my house to here. I left at 5:45, and I pulled into the parking lot at 6:15. It's 12 miles, and it took me 30 minutes to get here because our infrastructure, to be blunt, sucks. We spend more time picking weeds and watering flowers in a traffic circle than we do building roads. We already can't handle the amount of traffic that we've got and the amount of homes and stuff that exist, and though these won't have a lot of employees, the construction traffic is going to be massive. And let's be honest, it's no coincidence that there's a quarry and that my road was remarked for new water mains and all sorts of stuff last year before the hurricane came through. So none of this stuff is coincidental. It's been being planned for the better part of 10 years, to my understanding. And everybody knew about it except us. So I don't know what the infrastructure plan is. Don't get me wrong, if somebody came and offered me 8 times fair market value for my property to get out of there, I would, because I don't like the direction the county's going with this stuff. It was bad enough it's nice that Amazon is across the street, so when I order something, I can get it overnight. That's all great and everything. But what we did with the infrastructure is reroute a road when it could have dumped straight into a traffic circle right where it was, and the Amazon traffic, the club car traffic, the coach traffic, where all the trucks and stuff are kept, blocks it up. We've lived there forever, and we can't even get out onto 221 anymore at 3 times during the day. It's absolutely atrocious. Nobody seems to care. We buy mowers, we cut weeds, we build no roads. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Beth Connell. I live at 2538 Falling Branch Lane, Evans. I'm here for just a couple of reasons. I'm going to be extremely brief because there's another 4,000 acres that are covered in the next 2 bullets on the agenda. So I'm going to be extremely brief on this one. I do have a request from the commission and from this group. It's been brought up many, many, many times. This, for everybody who's not familiar with the process, This is a two-part process. This is just planning and zoning. We already said, I believe it was February 3rd, maybe, was the actual commission meeting.
That's correct.
If everybody will remember, this particular group, and we thank you very much for it, you voted to not approve the quarry, and we saw what happened at the commission meeting. So my request is for everybody that's here to be sure you show up for that meeting. Columbia County does work on whether or not you got a full room of people protesting and against something. My request is that, once again, and we've requested this before, for those planning and zoning signs that contain today's date, please change them and put the new date of the commission meeting. That has been asked over and over in planning and zoning meetings and in commission meetings. That way you alert residents who aren't aware of the two-piece process that they have another opportunity. I also request that you deny the rezoning. It sounds to me like there's a whole lot of unknowns, maybes. Mike can, we'll do this study. I'm not gonna go into the rest of it. I'll save it for the next two if needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.